Hello again for the second part of Chapter 7, our Viper's work on Kensuke's Kingdom. Today we have a full bubble, 9 children in it, and they are...
Robin. Hi everybody.
And we are going to work through these questions today. And so when we read the next part of Chapter 7, I would like you to consider these things. We'll read the text first and then go back to see. So, nice and quiet please class. Question 1. How do we know that Kensuke is a considerable craftsman? So a talented craftsman. Who is Tomodachi? What does Kensuke want in return for teaching Michael to paint? What did Kensuke find hardest about learning to speak English? What do Michael and Kensuke have in common from their past? So, let's read up. We'll find out. Let's make that a bit bigger. So, the evidence that he was a considerable craftsman was all around me. The cave house must have been entirely furnished by him, fashioned mostly from flotsam, the chest, the workbench itself, the shelves, the table. He must have made the rush matting, the bamboo panelling, everything. And on close examination I could see it was all perfectly finished. No nails, no screws, just neat doweling. He had used some form of glue where necessary, and sometimes twine as well. Ropes for tree climbing, fishing spears, fishing nets and fishing rods were stacked in one corner. Though I'd never yet seen him use the rods, he had made them all. So the first question was, how do we know that Kensuke is a considerable craftsman? What was his cave, his dwelling full of to make us think that? Gabby? Chests. And what else? Christian?
Fishing rods and fishing spears and fishing nets.
Exactly. And Asia?
Art.
Good. And why do we think he was a good craftsman, a talented one? What was it about these things? What was it? Yes?
You would get stuff off the cave or island to make art.
So he made all his own furniture, didn't he? So we know that he was a considerable craftsman because his cave was full of extremely well-made pieces of furniture and art that he'd made himself, as Taylor just said, from thrown away things. Yes, Miss?
And, I think some, like the cushions and the blankets and stuff, some of them might have to be like from animals because he lives on an island.
We'll have to find. I don't remember that detail, but we'll have to certainly look through that. But that's a very reasonable hypothesis. Right. He'd made his own paintbrushes as well, and I was soon to find out how. Kensuke had a favourite orangutan, a large female he called Tomodachi, who would often come and sit by him to be groomed. Kensuke was grooming her one day just outside the mouth of the cave, the other orangutans looking on, when I saw him quite deliberately pluck out the longest and darkest hairs. That bit bigger. From her back. He held them up to show me, grinning conspirationally. And at the time, I didn't really understand what he was up to. Later, I watched him at his workbench, trimming the hairs with his knife, dipping them in the sap. I'd seen him tap from a tree that same morning, cutting out a short length of hollow bamboo, and then filling it with Tomodachi's hair. A day later, the glue had hardened, and he had a paintbrush. Kensuke seemed to have found ways to satisfy his every need. We were silent at our painting one day, the rain thundering down on the forest below. When he stopped, put down his paintbrush and said very slowly, in a very measured way, as if he had thought about how to say it for a long time, "I teach you painting, Micah." This was the first time he had ever called me by my name. You teach me speak English. I won't speak English. You teach me. It was the beginning of an English lesson that was to last for months. Every day, dawn to dusk, I translated the world around him into English. We did what we had always done, but now I talked all the while, and he would echo every word, every phrase he wanted to. His brow would furrow with the effort of it. It was as if by saying each word, he simply swallowed it into his brain. Once told, once practiced, he would rarely forget, and if he did, he was always very annoyed with himself. Sometimes, as I enunciated a new word, I noticed that his eyes would light up. He would be nodding and smiling almost as if he recognized the word, as if he was greeting an old friend. He would repeat it again and again, savouring the sound of it before committing it to the memory for good. And of course, the more words he knew, the more he tried to experiment with them. Single words became clipped phrases, became entire sentences. His pronunciation, though, never did improve, however hard he tried. Michael was always Micah, sometimes Mike-san. Now at last we could talk more easily to one another. The long silence in which our friendship had been forged was over. It had never been a barrier between us, but it had been limiting. We were sitting by the cave mouth one sunset when he said, "You see now if I understand, Mike-san. You tell me story of you, where you live, why you come here, my island. From baby to now, I listen." So I did. I told him about home, about my mother and father, about the brick factory closing, about football with Eddie and the mudlarks. Let's have a look to see if we've captured any information to answer some more of these. So looking at those questions again, boys and girls, does anyone think they can answer some more of those? Oh, Christian, you first. Which one do you think you can answer?
Who is
Tomodachi. Who is Tomodachi, Christian?
Tomodachi is the orangutan that...
Yes, she's...
Kensuke took the hair.
That's right, the orangutan that supplied the hairs for his paintbrush. What does Kensuke want in return for teaching Michael to paint? Everyone should have this answer. Asia, you've answered lots. Christian, you've answered lots. Go on, go to Pietro. What's he want?
So he learns English?
Yes, to learn to speak English. What did Kensuke find hardest about learning to speak English? Have we got the information for that one yet? What do you think, Robin?
Pronunciation.
Well spotted. The pronunciation. What does that word mean, pronunciation? Asia.
It means how you pronounce the word.
It does how you sound it, yeah, how you shape it in your mouth. All right, so now we're going to just do the last question then. And so let's see if we can all get this answer. Maisie, what do Michael and Kensuke have in common from their past? So let's look. Maybe. So from here. And our voyage round the world about football in Brazil and lions in Africa and spiders in Australia, about my mother being ill, about the night I fell overboard. Very good, I understand. Very good, he said when I had finished. So football you like. When I little, I play football too. Very happy time. Long ago now in Japan, in my home. He sat in silence for some moments. You, very long away from home, Mike-san. You very sad sometimes, I see. So I make you happy. Tomorrow we go fishing and maybe I tell you my story too. My story, your story. Maybe same story now. The sun had suddenly gone. We stood up and bowed to one another. "Oh, Yamsui, Masai," he said. "Good night," I said. It was the only time of the day he ever spoke Japanese, though he did sing in Japanese. Mostly I had taught him 10 green bottles, which always made him laugh when he sang it. I loved his laugh. It was never loud, more a prolonged chuckle, but it always warmed my heart. The next morning he picked up 2 of his fishing rods and a net and led the way into the forest. "Today we catch big fish, Micah, not small fish," he announced. He was taking us to the part of the island where I had been washed up all those months before, but rarely had cause to visit since, because there was a little or no fruit to be found there. We had to beat a difficult path through the forest before joining a cliff path that wound its way down to a hidden sandy bay. As we emerged from the forest onto the beach, Stella ran away. bounding at once into the shallows, barking at me to play with her. Suddenly Kensuke caught me by the arm. "You look, Maxan, what you see." His eyes were full of mischief. I didn't know what I was supposed to be looking for. "Nothing here." "Yes, I very clever fellow. You watch, I show you." He made for the end of the beach and I followed. Once there, he began to pull and tug at the undergrowth. To my surprise, it simply came away in his hands. I saw first what looked like a log lying in the sand, but then as he dragged away more branches, I saw it was part of a boat, an outrigger, a long wide dugout with a frame of outriggers on each side. It was covered in canvas, which he folded back very slowly, chuckling to himself as he did so. And there, lying in the bottom of the boat, beside a long oar, was my football. He reached in and tossed it to me. It was softer now, and much of the white leather was cracked and discoloured, but in places I could still just make out Eddie's name. Okay, so it's the end of chapter 7. We had one more question to answer, didn't we? What do Michael and Kensuke have in common from their past? Brooke?
Playing football.
Playing football. They were fans of football, like lots of you. Yes, Pietro, you'd have got on with them.
Painting.
That's kind of their present as more than their past. They're now, isn't it? Do you know the difference? Yeah, past, before, present, now. What's the next one, Pietro? Past, present, and
Future.
future. Good boy. So we've finished chapter 7, and next week we will work through the rest of the book. Everybody, let's do it one at a time. Let's have a goodbye from Brooke,
Bye.
Taylor, Caden,
Bye.
Maisie,
Bye.
Robin,
Bye.
Asia,
Bye.
Gabby,
Bye.
and Christian,
Bye.
and Pietro,
Bye.
and me.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.